How empty is your championship stadium? That's what we're going to be ranking in today's video, going through each championship club and ranking their capacity by how much of the stadium they actually fill up week in, week out, ranking the stadiums from the most empty to the fullest each week. If you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like on today's video and do stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. But without any further ado, let's jump into this one. Starting out at the bottom of the barrel, we've got Blackburn Rovers, who only go ahead and fill 44.4% of their stadium week in, week out. So over 50% of their stadium remains empty on a match day. This season, they've had an average attendance of 13,921 fans, which doesn't really do much in comparison to their 31k that it goes ahead and holds. And it does, I think, have quite the negative impact on the atmosphere there. Staying close to Blackburn, next up we've then got Wigan Athletic, who only go ahead and fill 47.6% of their stadium, so once again over half of it is empty each match day. Wigan do get a little bit of banter for sort of empty seats, travelling numbers and things like that at times, but the facts are that sometimes a stadium is just too big for where a fan base is at this point in time. Wigan have had an average attendance of just over 12,000 this season, but the stadium holds over 25k. Now in 22nd place we do have Birmingham, but there are some extenuating circumstances as to why this is the case. They've only filled 50.4% of their stadium on average so far this season, but they are also working at a stadium capacity cap due to the work that is going on around the stadium. Obviously the bottom tier around it hasn't been open to fans this season as work continues on the rebuild there, so a little bit of a flag to be put up with Birmingham there. In 21st place we then have Cardiff City, who get decent numbers compared to some other championship clubs. They've averaged over 17k fans this season, but when you consider their stadium holds over 33,000, it means that they've only filled just over 50% of their stadium this season at 52.3%, and obviously that will then have the knock-on effect for atmosphere and things like that, which just falls away when there are a lot of empty seats. Making it into 20th place we then have Reading with the Select Car Leasing Stadium. They've filled 55% of their ground on average on a match day this season with a capacity of over 24,000. They've had an average gate this season of 13,277 fans. In 19th place we then have Coventry City, who, to be fair, I think have done a decent job of making an atmosphere at a stadium where there are a lot of empty seats. On average this season they've only filled 57.5% of their ground. They've had an average attendance of just over 18,000 this season. The stadium holds over 32,000. What Coventry do quite well though is they've sort of restructured the ground, so they've put the loudest home fans right next to the away fans, which does generate a little bit of atmosphere there, but at the opposite end of the pitch just looks like a little bit of a ghost town behind that net. Coming in 18th place we then have Preston North End, who have filled an average of 65.2% of the ground this season. We've had an average gate of 15,200. The stadium holds just over 23,000. There was a conscious effort by North End in the summer to get more season tickets sold, get more home fans in the ground on a weekly basis, and I definitely think that it has helped added to the atmosphere. What has gone ahead and soured all of that is the fact that we've been pretty crap at home all season. Hull City's average numbers have taken quite the bump up since their takeover. So far this season they've had an average gate of just over 17,000 fans, and in terms of an overall capacity that means they've sold out 66.9% of their stadium on a weekly basis, as that one holds just over 25k. When it comes to the overall attendances, Stoke are one of the bigger clubs in the championship, averaging over 20,000 fans on a weekly basis, but as the Bet365 stadium holds over 30,000, it means they've just filled 68.9% of their stadium capacity on a weekly basis. Stoke, similar sort of vein to Preston, not been a great watch, especially at home so far this season, so those season ticket holders there haven't exactly got great value for money so far. In 15th place we then have the Blackpool fans in at Bloomfield Road, of course one of the smaller stadiums in the championship, which only holds just over 16,000 fans, but as a result of that they are able to fill more of that ground. On average this season they've filled 69.9% of the capacity, and as much as I hate to admit it as a North End fan, it definitely does help generate a little bit more atmosphere. Goes ahead and traps it in a little bit more with those filled in corners, and yeah, it's decent going, getting around that 70 mark. For some reason in my mind, I've always had it that the Den's been bigger than it actually is, but it only holds just over 20,000 fans. Always had it in my head that there are a few more thousand attached onto that, but so far this season, Millwall have had an average gate of 14,178 fans, and in a stadium which holds just over 20k, that means they've sold on average 70.4% of their stadium capacity on a weekly basis. In at 13th, we then have Bristol City, and we are starting to get into some of the more consistent numbers there, where the grounds do look more full than empty. As soon as you get above that 70% mark, I think you're in a good stage really, especially compared to some of the other clubs further down the list. Obviously, been a lot of renovation work on Ashton Gate over these last few years around the stadium as well. I think that's certainly helped with bumping up the attendances. They've averaged over 20k this season in a stadium that holds 27,000 exactly, meaning they filled 74.3% of their ground. In at the midway mark, we have one of the biggest fan bases in the Championship, Middlesbrough, who have averaged just over 25,000 fans this season. The Riverside is one of the biggest grounds in the league though, coming in with a 33,000 capacity, and so that means they've sold out 74.4% of their stadium on average, especially when they're in the mood. That section behind the goal next to the away fans can get a little bit rowdy. Huddersfield fans haven't been treated to a great brand of football this season and definitely haven't got value for money so far, but maybe that will change under Neil Warnock now. In terms of the attendance figures, actually decent going from Huddersfield. They've sold out 75.9% of their ground on a weekly basis, with an average attendance of 18,600 in a stadium that holds 24k. Into the top 10 we go, and in 10th place we have the biggest fan base in the Championship, certainly in terms of their average gates. We have Sunderland, who have averaged a whopping 38,000 fans on a weekly basis this season. That's bigger than loads of clubs that are currently playing in the Premier League. Obviously, with Sunderland, with the biggest fan base, they also have the biggest stadium in the Championship, which holds a whopping 48,700 fans overall, meaning that they sell out 78.1% of their stadium on a weekly basis. For Championship football though, those are some huge numbers. In at Swansea this season, they've averaged an overall capacity of 79.4%, which is decent going on a weekly basis, averaging a gate of 16,747 fans in a stadium that holds just over 21,000 in total. In 8th place, we then have Queen's Park Rangers in at Loftus Road, one of the smaller grounds, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things, which holds just over 18,000 fans, but on a weekly basis, QPR have got 14,600 fans packed into that one, meaning they've averaged a gate of an overall capacity of 79.6% of their overall stadium. It seems to me like West Brom's numbers have always been fairly consistent. That's always been my experience with that fan base. They've had an average gate this season of over 22,500 fans this season in a stadium which holds 26,850 fans, so pretty much selling out the majority of that ground. As an overall percentage, that's 83.9% on a weekly basis. In 6th place, we then have the Burnley fans in at Turf Moor. I was down at Turf Moor for the first time actually the other week, and yeah, they can really get that place rocking, selling out the vast majority of their stadium there, and I'm sure that their numbers are actually impacted by the away travelling fans sometimes who don't sell out their end, because the majority of the time the Burnley end does look full. They've got a stadium capacity of just under 22,000, and so far this season they've had an average gate of just under 19,000, meaning they've sold out 86.2% of their stadium each week. In 5th place, we then have the Rotherham United fans in at the New York Stadium, the second smallest ground in the Championship, but as a result of them filling the vast majority of it on a weekly basis, that does get them a place in the top 5. And I'd be interested to know from you guys, especially some of the fans of clubs who are lower down on this list, would you prefer a smaller stadium that you fill the majority of us? Because I definitely think that helps add to the overall atmosphere. Rotherham Stadium holds 12,000. They've had an average gate of 10,463 this season, meaning they've sold out 87.2% of their ground each week. The biggest ground of the clubs who are in the top 5 of today's list does belong to Sheffield United, though. In at Bramall Lane, they've sold out 88% of that stadium on a weekly basis, which is really good going for a stadium holding over 30k in the Championship. This season they've had an average attendance of 28,700. Into the top 3 we now go, and in 3rd place we have Vicarage Road with with the Watford fans, who sell just over 19,000 on a weekly basis in a stadium that holds 21,500, meaning they've got an overall capacity filled of 89.6% on a weekly basis. And the majority of the top three will be influenced by the travelling fans that come to that ground each week and how much they actually make up of the overall number, because most of the home seats are full. And that's certainly applicable for Luton Town in second place, where all the home ends are filled out and their attendance is affected by how many travelling fans are coming each week, because you can bank on it being sold out at Kenilworth Road. Overall, they have the smallest stadium in the Championship, which holds just over 10,000. They've had their capacity this season of 9,774 on average, meaning they've sold out 95.6% of their ground. But like I said, that one's influenced by travelling fans that sometimes bring the overall average down. And the same can also be applied to Norwich City, who do have the fullest ground in the Championship this season based on their average attendances. A ground which holds 27,244 fans has an average gate of 26,700 this season. Once again, all those home seats are mostly filled out, and this one will be affected by the travelling numbers that are coming down to Carrow Road, which sometimes bring the overall average down. But 98.3% of their stadium full, absolutely massive compared to some of those other sides earlier on in the video. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you would like to see any other videos in a similar sort of trend, do let me know in the comments down below. But apart from that, guys, do leave a like and do stick around for some regular content which will be coming out on the channel over these next few weeks. Apart from that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.